I'm Morgan Hamilton, and my world collapsed when I opened my safe after a business trip. The heavy metal door swung open to reveal nothing. Empty shelves where $500,000 in government securities had been stored. Securities my grandmother left me. My hands trembled as I checked again, disbelieving. Only one other person had been in my house. My sister, Audrey. My phone rang, her name flashing on screen as if nothing was wrong. Before I dive into this nightmare, let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for how this twisted family drama unfolds. To understand the magnitude of what happened, you need to know about my relationship with Audrey. Growing up in suburban Boston, we were just 3 years apart but existed in completely different worlds. I was the responsible one who studied hard, planned ahead, and saved my allowance. Audrey was the spontaneous, charismatic sister who could charm her way out of any situation. Our parents adored her. My mother would constantly say, "Morgan, why can't you lighten up like your sister?" Meanwhile, my father would bail Audrey out of whatever financial mess she created. When she maxed out her first credit card at 19, Dad paid it off. When she dropped out of community college after one semester but kept the tuition money, Mom called it Audrey finding her path. I took a different route. I worked through college, earned my finance degree with honors, and gradually built my career as a financial advisor. By 34, I had a solid reputation at one of Boston's prestigious financial firms, a comfortable home in Newton, and a portfolio that reflected my careful planning. Meanwhile, Audrey at 31 had cycled through 7 jobs in 5 years and was perpetually between apartments. The borrowing had been happening for years. First, it was $20 from my wallet in high school. Then it was borrowing my car in college and returning it with an empty tank. 5 years ago, she helped herself to my credit card for a small emergency that turned out to be a weekend spa trip with her friends. Each time I confronted her. Each time she'd flash those big apologetic eyes, promise it would never happen again, and somehow make me feel like I was overreacting. And each time our parents would say, "That's just how sisters are," or "Morgan, you can afford to help your sister." Despite all this, when I needed someone to house sit during my important Chicago business trip, Audrey was my only option. My best friend Taylor was traveling, and I had recently broken up with my boyfriend after discovering his dishonesty with finances. Ironic, looking back at it now. "I'll take good care of everything," Audrey had promised, flashing that winning smile. "You don't need to worry about a thing." My home had good security, motion detectors, window sensors, and a comprehensive camera system I could check from my phone. But the securities were in my bedroom safe, hidden behind a painting. The safe itself was high quality, fire-resistant, and secured with both a digital code and a key. I never imagined anyone would find it, much less open it. Those securities represented more than just money. When my grandmother died 3 years ago, she split her estate. My parents received her home, Audrey got her jewelry collection, and I received her government securities portfolio. Morgan will know how to handle these, she'd written in her will. It was her acknowledgement of my financial responsibility. Her way of saying she trusted me. They were specially registered securities that required specific processes to transfer or liquidate, which is why I kept them home rather than in a safety deposit box I couldn't easily access when making portfolio adjustments. $500,000 in ladder-structured treasury bonds and EE bonds, carefully organized by maturity date. Some were paper certificates, others electronic entries for which I kept the access documents secure. I checked them monthly, tracking their performance, feeling connected to my grandmother's legacy. What I didn't realize then was how the rest of my family viewed this inheritance. Comments about how Morgan got the valuable part or questions about when those bonds mature should have been warning signs. But I never imagined my own sister would see my grandmother's trust as something to exploit. Looking back, I should have noticed how Audrey asked unusually specific questions during family gatherings. "So, these government things, they're basically like cash, right? Or I bet those would be worth a lot if you needed to sell them quickly." At the time, I thought she was finally showing interest in financial literacy. Now I understand she was gathering intelligence for a heist. The most painful part? I had actually helped Audrey financially numerous times. When she needed first and last month's rent, I gave it to her. When her car needed repairs, I covered it. I never expected repayment because I knew it wouldn't come. I helped because that's what family does. Or at least, that's what I thought family does. When my phone rang that evening with Audrey's name flashing on the screen, I nearly threw it against the wall. Instead, I took a deep breath and answered with forced calm. "Hey Morgan, how was Chicago? Did you close that big deal?" Audrey sounded cheerful, as if nothing was wrong. As if she hadn't just committed a major theft. "Audrey," I managed to keep my voice steady. "I need you to tell me where my securities are." A brief pause. "What securities?" "The $500,000 worth of government securities that were in my safe. The safe that's now empty." My knuckles turned white as I gripped the phone. Another pause, longer this time. "Oh, those. Listen, it's not what you think." "Then what is it, Audrey?" "Because it looks like theft to me." My voice rose, despite my efforts to remain calm. "Borrowing," she corrected, her tone shifting from cheerful to defensive. "I borrowed them. There's a difference." "Borrowed? Without asking? $500,000 in securities that aren't even in your name?" I was nearly shouting now. "Morgan, you always overreact." "I was going to tell you. I just needed them for a little while." I paced around my bedroom, staring at the open safe. "This isn't like borrowing $20. These are registered securities. They have my name on them. They can't legally be transferred without proper documentation." "Well, that's actually not entirely true," Audrey said, her voice taking on that familiar know-it-all tone she used when trying to justify something unjustifiable. "Ryan says there are ways to work around that." "Ryan? Your boyfriend of what? 3 months? He's involved in this?" My stomach dropped. I'd only met Ryan once, and something about him had felt off. Too smooth. Too practiced. "Ryan knows people in finance," she said defensively. "He found someone who can help us invest these securities for a much better return than you're getting. I'm talking 30%, Morgan. 30%. This is a favor I'm doing for you." I sank onto my bed, dumbfounded by her audacity. "Audrey, that's not how government securities work. Anyone promising returns like that is running a scam." "God, you're so negative," she snapped. "Just because you play it safe with your little 3% doesn't mean everyone else has to. Some people understand how to make real money. By stealing?" "I didn't steal anything," she shouted. "You have so much, and I needed it more. Do you know what it's like watching you succeed at everything while I struggle? Do you have any idea how that feels? You got the valuable inheritance, the great career, the perfect life. What did I get? Grandma's old jewelry that appraised for barely $20,000. I was speechless. In her mind, this theft was justified as some form of cosmic balancing. "Look," her voice softened, turning manipulative. "The investment's already been made." Ryan's contact moved quickly. "The good news is, in 3 months, we'll have almost $700,000 to split between us." "Split? Audrey, those securities weren't yours to invest. And there won't be any return because this is obviously a scam." I was struggling to make her understand the magnitude of what she'd done. "Do you realize I could press charges? This is grand theft." "You wouldn't," she said, but I heard uncertainty creep into her voice. "You wouldn't do that to your own sister. Return the securities, Audrey. Every single one. Or, I will absolutely involve the police." "You've always been so dramatic," she said, but her voice had lost its confidence. "Fine. Let me talk to Ryan and figure out how to unwind the investment. I'll fix everything, okay? Just give me a couple of days." "Not days. Tomorrow. I want everything back tomorrow, or I'm calling the police." "I said I'll fix it," she snapped. "God, you never trust me to handle anything. I'll sort it out, okay? I have to go now." Before I could respond, she hung up. I immediately tried calling back, but my call went straight to voicemail. I sent a text. "This is serious, Audrey. Tomorrow morning or I'm filing a police report." No response. Something about our conversation felt wrong. The way she talked about unwinding an investment. The casual mention of Ryan's mysterious contact. The entire story sounded fabricated, like she was buying time. I grabbed my car keys. Audrey's apartment was 30 minutes away in Somerville. I needed to confront her face to face, make her understand that this wasn't going to disappear with her usual excuses and charm. As I drove, my mind raced. How had she even found the safe? How had she opened it? The digital code was my grandmother's birth date, which Audrey might have guessed, but the key was hidden in a hollowed-out book in my study. Had she been searching my house systematically? And how had she planned to explain the missing securities when I inevitably discovered the theft? Most disturbing of all, had she been planning this from the moment she offered to house sit? The premeditation made my blood run cold. The drive to Audrey's apartment felt endless. Traffic crawled along Massachusetts Avenue as my anxiety mounted. When I finally parked outside her 3-story walk-up, I noticed something strange immediately. The living room windows were dark. No lights visible anywhere in her unit. I climbed the stairs to the second floor and knocked forcefully on door 2B. No answer. I knocked again. Louder. Calling her name. Still nothing. Looking for the young couple? A woman's voice came from across the hall. An elderly lady stood in the doorway of 2C, watching me curiously. Yes, my sister Audrey. Have you seen her today? The neighbor frowned. Honey, they moved out yesterday. Loaded up a big U-Haul and everything. Said they were heading south for a job opportunity. My knees nearly buckled. Moved out? That's impossible. She didn't say anything about moving. Seemed like a rush job to me, the woman continued. Usually people give notice. Say goodbyes. They were hauling furniture at 7 in the morning. Very inconsiderate with all that noise. I leaned against the wall for support. Did they say where exactly they were going? The young man mentioned something about Florida, I think. Said they were tired of Boston winters. She studied my face. Are you all right, dear? You look pale. Did the landlord know they were leaving? Don't think so. Mrs. Petrovich is going to be furious. They still had 5 months on their lease. I thanked her and asked if she knew if anyone had access to the apartment. She directed me to the building superintendent in the basement unit. The super, a middle-aged man named Hector, was reluctant at first, but when I explained I was Audrey's sister and showed him my ID with the same last name, he agreed to let me look inside. Been meaning to check if they left the place in good condition anyway, he muttered as he unlocked the door. The apartment was empty, completely empty. No furniture, no personal belongings, not even trash. Just bare floors and walls, with the ghostly outlines where pictures had once hung. The only sign anyone had lived there was the lingering scent of Audrey's perfume. They cleaned it good. I'll give them that, Hector said, checking the kitchen cabinets. Most skippers leave a mess. I wandered through the small apartment in a daze. This wasn't a hasty departure. This was a planned escape. In the bedroom closet, I found a single sheet of paper taped to the wall. A note, hastily scrawled in Audrey's handwriting. Morgan, I knew you'd come here. Sorry about the drama, but we needed to move quickly on this investment opportunity. I promise when it matures in 3 months, you'll get your original amount back plus some extra for your trouble. This is going to work out for both of us. Please don't make this a legal thing. Family shouldn't do that to family. I sank to the floor of the empty closet, the note trembling in my hand. This wasn't impulsive, this was calculated. She had planned to take the securities and disappear all along. The house sitting, the questions about my investments, the sudden interest in my work schedule, all of it had been leading to this moment. Found something? Hector asked from the doorway. I folded the note and put it in my pocket. Just confirmation that my sister's in trouble. After thanking Hector, I sat in my car and called my parents. Surely they would be as shocked and horrified as I was. Surely they would help me track down Audrey and make this right. My mother answered on the 3rd ring. Morgan? Is everything okay? You never call this late. Mom, Audrey stole $500,000 from me and has disappeared. She emptied out her apartment and left town. A long pause followed. Too long. Mom? Morgan. That's a very serious accusation. Her voice had a strange, guarded quality. Are you absolutely sure about this? Am I sure? Yes, I'm sure. My safe is empty. Her apartment is empty, and she admitted it on the phone before hanging up on me. Another pause. Well, I'm sure there's an explanation. You know how impulsive your sister can be. This isn't impulsiveness, Mom. This is theft. Grand theft. She stole $500,000 in securities that grandmother left me. She mentioned you might call like this, my mother said quietly. My blood ran cold. What? Audrey called us earlier today. She said you two had a disagreement about some money you promised to give her for a fresh start. She said you changed your mind and might try to cause trouble for her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And you believed her? Mom, I never promised her any money. She broke into my safe while house-sitting and stole my securities. Morgan, please calm down. Audrey explained everything. She said you'd been feeling guilty about getting the valuable part of your grandmother's estate while she only got the jewelry. She said you offered to help her with an investment opportunity, but then panicked about your career if anyone found out. My jaw dropped. Audrey had preemptively created a false narrative, and my parents had swallowed it whole. Did she also tell you she emptied her apartment overnight and fled the state? I demanded. She mentioned she and Ryan were relocating for his job opportunity. It all happened quickly, but that's how the job market works these days. Mom, she stole from me. Your daughter stole from your other daughter. Why can't you understand that? Morgan, you've always been dramatic about money. So rigid. So untrusting. I'm sure if you just talked with your sister instead of threatening her, you could have worked this out privately. It was like talking to a wall. In their eyes, Audrey could do no wrong, and I was the villain for even suggesting otherwise. Did she tell you where she was going? I asked, not expecting an honest answer. She thought it would be better if she had some space from you for a while, until you calmed down. Translation: Audrey had sworn them to secrecy. I'm filing a police report, I said flatly. Morgan? No! My mother's voice rose in panic. You can't do that to your sister. Think about her future. Think about the family. I am thinking about the family. The family member who was robbed. Your father wants to speak with you, she said. And I heard the phone changing hands. Morgan. My father's stern voice came through the speaker. You will not involve the police in a family matter. I forbid it. Dad, this isn't about family drama. This is about a crime. If you file a police report against your sister, you're no longer welcome in this family, he said coldly. Is that understood? We work things out privately, not by destroying each other legally. The ultimatum hung in the air between us. In that moment, I realized my parents would never take my side against Audrey. They would choose her. They always had. Goodbye, Dad, I said quietly, and hung up. I sat in my car outside Audrey's empty apartment for nearly an hour, trying to process what had happened. My sister had stolen my inheritance. My parents had chosen to believe her lies. I was completely alone in this fight. Finally, I started the engine and drove to the nearest police station. Family or not, what Audrey had done was criminal, and I wouldn't let her get away with it. The Brighton police station lobby had harsh fluorescent lighting that made everything look sickly and unreal, matching perfectly with how I felt. The officer at the front desk directed me to a hard plastic chair to wait for Detective Bennett, who handled financial crimes. After 40 minutes, a tall man with salt and pepper hair and perpetually tired eyes introduced himself and led me to a small interview room. So, Miss Hamilton, Detective Bennett said as he opened a notebook, you're reporting a theft of government securities? His tone suggested he'd rather be handling literally any other case. Yes. $500,000 worth of Treasury and EE bonds that were in my home safe. And you believe your sister took them? I know she did. She admitted it on the phone. He raised an eyebrow. You have a recording of this admission? No, but she left a note in her apartment after fleeing. I handed him Audrey's note in a plastic bag. I'd watched enough crime shows to know about preserving evidence. Bennett read it and sighed. Miss Hamilton, I'm going to be straight with you. Family financial disputes are complicated. Courts often view shared access to homes as implicit permission, making criminal cases difficult to pursue. She was house-sitting. That's not shared access in any normal sense. Did you give her the alarm code? House key? Yes, but. And these securities? They were physical certificates? Some were. Others were electronic with access documents. He made some notes. Was the safe visibly broken into? No, I admitted. She must have found the code and key. Bennett set down his pen and looked at me directly. Miss Hamilton, I'll file this report, but I need to set realistic expectations. The district attorney rarely pursues cases where family members had lawful access to the premises. There's no forced entry, and there's a note suggesting some form of agreement existed. Agreement? She stole from me. There was no agreement. According to her note, there was some understanding about an investment. Without clear evidence of theft versus misunderstanding, this becomes a civil matter, not criminal. I felt my hope fading. So you're saying there's nothing you can do? I'll file the report and have officers look for your sister for questioning. But realistically, if she's left the state with these assets that may or may not legally belong solely to you, he shrugged. My suggestion would be to consult a civil attorney about recovery options. I left the police station with a case number and the sinking feeling that Audrey would face no real consequences. As I approached my car, I noticed my parents' SUV parked across the street. My father leaned against it, arms crossed, watching me. I walked over, anger building with each step. Are you following me now? We got a call from your Uncle Thomas. His wife plays bridge with the police chief's mother. Word travels fast. His expression was hard. I told you not to involve the police. And I told you Audrey committed a serious crime. Get in the car, Morgan. Your mother is waiting at home. We're going to discuss this as a family. No, I'm going home. To my home, which was robbed by your precious Audrey. Morgan Elizabeth Hamilton. He used my full name. Like I was still 10 years old. This ends now. Whatever game you're playing to hurt your sister stops today. Game? $500,000 is missing. $500,000 that you could easily spare. You make 6 figures. Your sister has nothing. Because she spends everything she gets. Because you and Mom bail her out of every bad decision instead of letting her learn from consequences. He grabbed my arm. That's enough. Get in the car now. I wrenched away. Don't touch me. This isn't going away. Audrey is going to answer for what she did, with or without your support. Then it will be without, he said coldly. Your mother and I have discussed it. If you continue this vindictive pursuit of your sister, you are no longer our daughter. The words hit like physical blows. So that's it? Audrey steals from me, lies to you, and I'm the one who gets disowned? She made a mistake. She's trying to fix it. You're choosing revenge. Justice isn't revenge. Family forgives, Morgan. Real family forgives. I looked at this man, my father, and realized I didn't recognize him anymore. Or perhaps I was finally seeing him clearly for the first time. Goodbye, Dad. I drove home in a daze, only to find my mother sitting on my front porch. Her eyes were red from crying, but her expression was resolute. Morgan, we need to talk. Inside my living room, surrounded by the evidence of Audrey's betrayal, the empty safe still open in my bedroom, my mother tried a different approach than my father's anger. Sweetheart, I know you're hurt, but pursuing this legally will destroy Audrey's life. One mistake shouldn't define her future. This wasn't a mistake, Mom. It was calculated theft. She panicked. She and Ryan have been struggling financially. She saw an opportunity and made a bad choice. An opportunity? This wasn't shoplifting a lipstick. She systematically planned to steal my inheritance. My mother's face hardened. An inheritance you didn't need. Your grandmother should have split everything evenly. You've always had everything come easily. Good grades. Good job. Financial security. Audrey struggles with all of that. Because you never made her work for anything. Because you cushioned every fall. We helped both our daughters. No, you coddled Audrey and expected me to fend for myself. And now that she's committed a serious crime, you're still making excuses for her. My mother stood up. I didn't come here to argue. I came to tell you that Audrey called us after you left the police station. My blood ran cold. How did she know I went to the police? My mother looked away. Ryan has a friend in the department. They heard your name come up. The implications were staggering. Audrey had connections in the police department monitoring for my complaint. What did she say? She was upset, naturally. She asked if we'd given you her new number, and I assured her we hadn't. Wait, I interrupted, a new betrayal dawning. You have her new number? You know how to reach her? My mother realized her mistake too late. Morgan, she needed a way to contact family in an emergency. While hiding from me? After stealing $500,000 from me? It's not like that. Give me her number, I demanded. I promised her I wouldn't. Of course you did. I laughed bitterly. Heaven forbid you ever take my side against St. Audrey. My phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. Back off or you'll regret it. Family matters should stay private. I showed my mother the screen. Is this from her? Or Ryan? My mother's face went pale. I don't know. Morgan, what have you started? I didn't start anything. I'm the victim here. Victims don't destroy their families out of pride. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Your father and I are hosting dinner on Sunday. Aunt Patricia and Uncle Thomas will be there. I expect you to come and tell everyone you've decided not to pursue charges against your sister, that you've reconsidered this vendetta. I won't be attending. Morgan, this is non-negotiable. You will be there, and you will fix this mess you've created. After she left, I changed all my locks and security codes. I couldn't trust my own family anymore. Sunday came. I didn't go to dinner. My phone exploded with texts and calls from relatives, each message more accusatory than the last. How could you do this to your sister? Your poor parents are heartbroken. Family stands together, Morgan. That night, I received a formal email from my mother. Morgan, your absence today spoke volumes. Your father and I have decided that until you come to your senses about this situation with Audrey, you are no longer welcome at family gatherings. We cannot condone your vindictive behavior toward your sister, who has always looked up to you despite your coldness toward her. When you're ready to behave like family, let us know. Until then, please respect our decision and keep your distance. Alone in my home, I finally allowed myself to cry. Not just for the money, but for the family I thought I had. The family that, apparently, I never really did. With my family against me and the police providing little hope, I realized I needed to build my own case. My background in finance gave me an advantage. I understood paper trails, transaction records, and the systems Audrey would need to navigate to liquidate the securities. I started with my own records, meticulously documenting every security that was missing. Serial numbers, registration details, maturity dates, face values, everything that would make them identifiable if they surfaced in the financial system. Then I did something I'd never done before. I hired a digital forensics specialist to recover deleted data from my home computer. If Audrey had used it while house-sitting, there might be traces of her activities. The specialist, a former IT security expert named James, found something disturbing. Someone accessed your financial accounts multiple times in the 3 months before the theft. Not just during the house-sitting period, before that. That's impossible, I said, looking at the login timestamps. I wasn't even home during some of these times. Exactly. James pointed to recurring logins that happened primarily on Tuesday evenings between 7 to 9 p.m. Were you regularly out during these times? I felt sick. Tuesday evenings, I had a standing yoga class, followed by dinner with friends. I'd been doing it for over a year. Audrey knew my schedule. She had a key to my house, I realized aloud. For emergencies. She's been coming in when I'm not home for months. James showed me browser history from those sessions, searches for how to open a digital safe without the code, selling government bonds without owner's knowledge, and countries with no extradition to U.S. This wasn't opportunistic theft. This was a long con, meticulously planned. Next, I checked my home security system. The camera footage from the past month had been conveniently erased, something I'd initially attributed to a system glitch. But the cloud backup service retained thumbnail previews. Among them, I found images of not just Audrey but my cousin Rachel entering my home on multiple occasions during my Chicago trip. Rachel had always been close to Audrey. They were the same age and had been inseparable as teenagers. But Rachel involving herself in this scheme shocked me. I called Rachel, not expecting her to answer. Surprisingly, she did. Morgan, she sounded nervous. "I can't talk to you," Aunt Catherine said. "I know you helped Audrey rob me," I cut in. "I have security footage of you in my house during times you shouldn't have been there." Silence. "Rachel, this is serious. The police are involved now. If you helped Audrey commit theft, you're an accomplice. It wasn't supposed to be like this." Her voice cracked. "Audrey said you'd agreed to help her start a business. She just needed to get the paperwork from your office for the bank loan. I was just keeping lookout. And you believed that? That I'd ask her to break into my home office to get paperwork I could easily provide myself?" She started crying. "Then she said you changed your mind, but she really needed the loan. She said she was just borrowing collateral you wouldn't miss right away. That you'd understand once her business took off." Rachel. "She emptied my safe of $500,000 in securities and fled the state. There is no business." "There has to be," Rachel insisted. "Ryan showed us the business plan. The investment opportunity in Miami. The guaranteed returns. Ryan is a con man. He's using Audrey to get to my money, and she's using you to help her steal it." Another long silence. "You don't understand. It's more complicated than that." "Then explain it to me, please." Rachel lowered her voice to a whisper. "Ryan isn't who Audrey thinks he is. His real name is Richard Blackwell. He's been convicted of fraud twice in California. He targets women with access to money or valuable assets." My stomach dropped. "How do you know this?" "Because after I helped them that day, something felt wrong. I did some research on him. Morgan, he's dangerous. When I confronted Audrey, she said I was jealous and threatened to tell everyone I helped her if I didn't keep quiet." "Rachel, you need to tell the police this." "I can't. Uncle Robert and Aunt Catherine would never forgive me. And Ryan, he knows people. Morgan, dangerous people. More dangerous than prison for fraud?" She started crying harder. "There's something else. Audrey and Ryan came to the family dinner last month when you couldn't make it. They were asking about your work, your access to client accounts. Ryan was really interested in whether you could move client funds without immediate oversight." Ice ran through my veins. This wasn't just about stealing my securities. They were fishing for information about my clients' assets. If they attempted to use my credentials or identity to access client funds, my career wouldn't just be damaged, it would be destroyed. I could face regulatory charges. "Morgan." Rachel's voice dropped even lower. "Your parents knew more than they're admitting." "What do you mean?" "The night before Audrey and Ryan disappeared, they had dinner at your parents' house. I overheard them discussing the opportunity in Miami. Your dad was concerned about the legality, but your mom kept saying you'd never miss the money with your salary and that family helps family." I couldn't breathe. "Are you saying my parents knew they were planning to take my securities?" "I don't think they knew the full plan, but they knew something was happening with your money that you hadn't approved." Aunt Catherine said something about how Morgan will forgive Audrey eventually. She always does. After hanging up with Rachel, I sat in stunned silence. This wasn't just Audrey acting impulsively. This was a coordinated effort involving multiple family members, some as active participants, others as willfully blind enablers. I called the detective handling my case and shared what I'd learned about Ryan's true identity. He seemed more interested now. "Richard Blackwell has outstanding warrants in California and Nevada," he confirmed after running the name. "If he's involved, this changes things. We'll put out an alert for both of them." Next, I contacted the SEC and my firm's compliance department to warn them about potential attempts to access client accounts using my credentials. They immediately locked down my professional access and launched an internal investigation. That evening, as I updated my security system with additional cameras, I received another text from the unknown number. "You're making powerful enemies. Last warning to drop this." I forwarded it to Detective Bennett and continued working. If they wanted to intimidate me, they'd pick the wrong target. I wasn't just fighting for my money anymore. I was fighting for my reputation and career. The next day, I hired private investigator Diana Lewis, who specialized in financial fraud cases. With her help, We began tracking possible paths the Securities might take if Ryan, divided by Richard, attempted to liquidate them. Government securities have serial numbers and registration details, Diana explained. They can't just be cashed at any bank, but there are ways to use them as collateral for loans, or to transfer them through multiple entities to obscure the paper trail. Would they need forged documents with my signature? I asked. Absolutely. And identification that could pass for yours in states where they don't have your signature on file. I pulled out the folder of documents I'd assembled. These are all the securities that were taken, complete with serial numbers and registration details. Diana whistled as she flipped through the pages. This is impressive documentation. Most victims don't have half this detail. I'm a financial advisor. Documentation is what I do. She smiled for the first time. Then we might actually have a chance of tracking these down before they disappear completely. Over the next week, Diana and I worked tirelessly. We discovered alarming evidence. Someone had attempted to establish a corporation in Delaware using my name and an approximation of my signature. The corporation was then used to apply for a transfer of ownership for several of the securities. Even more disturbing, we found a Miami-based loan company that had approved a $200,000 loan using some of my securities as collateral. The loan had been processed using a Florida ID with my name, but Audrey's photograph slightly altered to look more like me. The scheme was sophisticated and clearly not Audrey's work alone. Ryan, divided by Richard, was using his experience in financial fraud to navigate systems designed to prevent exactly this kind of theft. We also discovered they had attempted to access my retirement accounts using personal information only family members would know, my mother's maiden name, my first pet's name, the street where I grew up. Fortunately, my accounts had additional security measures they couldn't bypass. With each discovery, the betrayal cut deeper. My own sister hadn't just stolen from me. She was systematically attempting to strip me of everything I'd worked for, using intimate knowledge only family would have. The final piece fell into place when Diana tracked a recently established offshore account in the Cayman Islands linked to a shell company that matched the pattern of Ryan's previous operations. Transfers from the Miami loan company had already moved funds there, placing them beyond easy legal reach. They're following a playbook, Diana explained. Get the assets, convert to cash, move offshore, then disappear. The fact that they're still in Miami means they're not done yet. They're still working through the securities. I brought all this evidence to Detective Bennett. This time, he took it seriously. This crosses state lines and involves securities fraud. That makes it federal, he said, making copies of everything. I'm bringing in the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. As I left the police station, my phone rang. Cousin Jamie, the only family member who hadn't condemned me. Morgan, I need to see you. Not over the phone. It's about Audrey and your parents. We met at a coffee shop far from any family hangouts. I overheard your parents arguing last night, Jamie said quietly. Your mother received a package from Audrey. Cash, Morgan. A lot of cash. Your dad wanted to return it, but your mom said they deserved it for all they've done for the girls over the years. The final betrayal. My parents weren't just enabling Audrey's theft. They were profiting from it. There's more, Jamie continued. They're planning to visit Audrey in Miami next month. Your mother was looking at flights. They know exactly where she is, Morgan. They've known all along. With this knowledge, I returned to Diana and Detective Bennett. We now had all the pieces needed to set a trap, one that would catch not just Audrey and Ryan, but expose everyone involved in the conspiracy against me. Diana's investigation pinpointed Audrey and Ryan to a luxury condo in Miami Beach, a $3 million property purchased through an LLC registered just 2 weeks after they fled Boston. Using my securities as collateral, they had secured loans to finance a lavish new lifestyle while working to convert the remaining assets to cash. We should coordinate with local authorities, Diana advised. But given what we've learned about Ryan's connections, I think you should be there in person to identify your securities if they're found on the premises. I booked the next flight to Miami, carrying digital and physical documentation of every missing security. Detective Bennett coordinated with Miami-Dade police, who agreed to meet me at the condo building. Miami was sweltering compared to Boston's early spring chill. The condo building rose like a gleaming white spear against the blue sky, its curved balconies overlooking the Atlantic. It was exactly the kind of ostentatious luxury Audrey had always coveted. The Miami detective assigned to meet me, Rodriguez, was 30 minutes late and clearly skeptical. "Family financial disputes aren't our priority," he said, echoing Detective Bennett's initial dismissal. "But your sister's boyfriend has some outstanding warrants, so that gets my attention." We took the private elevator to the 23rd floor. I felt sick imagining my stolen inheritance funding this lifestyle. A uniformed security guard accompanied us. "The residents in 2307 have only been here a month," he said. "Very friendly. Big tippers." Rodriguez knocked on the door. Silence. He knocked again, louder. The door swung open, and there stood Audrey, looking like a completely different person. Gone was her casual Boston style, replaced by designer resort wear. Her hair was highlighted, her skin artificially tanned. For a moment, she looked genuinely shocked to see me. Then her expression hardened. "Morgan." What a surprise. Her tone was cold, nothing like the sister I'd grown up with. "You know why I'm here," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I want my securities back." "I don't know what you're talking about." She moved to close the door, but Rodriguez placed his foot in the way. "Miss Hamilton, we have some questions about Richard Blackwell, also known as Ryan Bennett. His name is Ryan Bennett, and he's not here right now." She glared at me. "This is harassment, Morgan. You can't just show up with police because you're having buyer's remorse about helping your sister." "Buyer's remorse? You stole $500,000 from my safe." "I did no such thing. You agreed to invest in our business venture, and now you're trying to back out because you're jealous. I'm finally doing well." Her brazenness was stunning. "There is no business venture, Audrey. Ryan is a convicted fraudster. His real name is Richard Blackwell." Something flickered across her face. Doubt, perhaps, before her mask of confidence returned. "That's ridiculous. You've always tried to control me, Morgan. Always thought you were better than me. Well, look where I am now." She gestured around the opulent entryway visible behind her. "You live in your boring little house with your boring little life, while I'm here. You can't stand that I'm finally winning." "Winning? By stealing? By committing fraud?" Rodriguez intervened. "Miss Hamilton, we have a warrant to search these premises for the securities described in the report and to question Richard Blackwell." "You'll need my lawyer present," Audrey said, pulling out her phone. As if on cue, the elevator opened and Ryan stepped out, accompanied by a sharp-looking man in an expensive suit. "What's happening here?" Ryan asked. All charm and concern. "Mr. Blackwell," Rodriguez began. "Bennett." Ryan corrected smoothly. "Ryan Bennett. And this is my attorney, Mr. Vasquez." Vasquez stepped forward. "My clients are being harassed by a family member with a history of financial control issues. Whatever she's told you is a misrepresentation. We have evidence of securities fraud, identity theft, and transport of stolen securities across state lines," I interjected. Ryan looked at me with cold amusement. "Morgan, Morgan, Morgan. Always so dramatic. We have documentation for everything. Properly executed transfers, notarized agreements, all with your signature. Forged signatures." "That's a serious accusation," Vasquez said. "One you'll need to prove in court. Meanwhile, I've already spoken with Captain Jimenez about this situation." He emphasized the name, and Detective Rodriguez's demeanor immediately changed. "I need to make a call," Rodriguez said, stepping away. While he was distracted, Ryan leaned toward me. "You really should have stayed in Boston, Morgan. Some things are bigger than you understand. Walk away now while you still can. While your career is still intact." "Is that a threat?" "It's reality. You think this is just about some boring government bonds? We're building something here. Something big. Something that would make your grandmother proud, unlike the way you've let her investment stagnate." His words hit a nerve. "Don't you dare talk about my grandmother." "Our grandmother," Audrey corrected. "You weren't the only grandchild, Morgan, despite how you've always acted." Rodriguez returned, his expression now professionally blank. Mr. and Mrs. Bennett have agreed to answer questions downtown tomorrow with their attorney present. For now, there's insufficient evidence for an immediate search without risk of evidence suppression. But the warrant I began has some procedural issues Mr. Vasquez has identified. We'll need to resubmit. I recognized the signs. Someone had made a call. Someone with influence had intervened. This is corruption, I said quietly. Rodriguez's expression hardened. Ma'am, I suggest you return to your hotel and await further instructions from your local detective. Making accusations against the Miami-Dade Police Department isn't going to help your case. As we left, Ryan called after me. Family dinner soon, Morgan. Your parents are visiting next month. Shame you won't be invited. The building's security escorted us out, treating me like the criminal. Back at my hotel, I called Diana to update her on the disaster. They've got connections here. Someone made a call, and suddenly the warrant has procedural issues. That's Miami for you, Diana sighed. Money talks. But this isn't over. A sharp knock interrupted us. Housekeeping, called a female voice. I didn't request, I began, opening the door to find not housekeeping but two men in dark suits. Miss Hamilton? Hotel security. There's been a complaint about unauthorized access to another guest's room using your keycard. That's impossible. I've been out all day. We'll need to check your room and belongings. Instinctively, I knew something was wrong. Let me see some ID first. The men exchanged glances. Ma'am, either cooperate or we'll call the police. Diana, still on speakerphone, broke in. Morgan, don't let them in. Call the front desk immediately to verify. One man reached for the door. I slammed it shut and locked it, then called the hotel's front desk. No, Miss Hamilton. We haven't sent anyone to your room, and there are no complaints registered against your keycard. Heart pounding, I peered through the peephole to see the men still outside, now talking tensely into phones of their own. I need to change rooms immediately, I told the front desk. And please send actual security. I quickly packed my essentials, leaving behind my laptop, which contained only copies of documents whose originals were safely stored in multiple digital locations. Hotel security arrived and escorted me to a new room on a different floor, reporting that the men had fled before they arrived. Back in my new room, with a chair wedged under the doorknob for good measure, I called Diana back. They're escalating, she said gravely. Those men were likely after your evidence. Someone wants to neutralize your case before it gains traction. The Securities, I realized. I have the original documentation in my bag. If they'd gotten that. You need to leave Miami tonight. Book a flight back to Boston immediately. I'll contact Detective Bennett and update him. As I was arranging my hasty departure, my phone chimed with a message. Unknown number. Room 1423 isn't any safer. Last warning. They knew my new room. The hotel's system had been compromised. I checked out immediately, telling the confused clerk I had a family emergency, and took a taxi not to the airport but to a different hotel entirely, paying cash and using my middle name. In the relative safety of this anonymous room, I received a call from Detective Bennett. Morgan, your hotel room was ransacked shortly after you left. Your laptop was stolen, and it looks like they searched thoroughly for documents. Miami PD is investigating, but they're compromised. I finished. I can't officially say that, he said carefully. But off the record, come home. We have enough to pursue the federal angle from here. The FBI is involved now. The next morning, I took the first flight back to Boston, constantly checking over my shoulder. What had started as theft had escalated into something far more dangerous. When I finally reached my house, exhausted and paranoid, I discovered it had been broken into during my absence. My home office was destroyed, files scattered everywhere, my computer missing. The message was clear. Nowhere was safe. I gathered what I needed and checked into a hotel under a business name, using the corporate account Diana had arranged. This wasn't just about recovering money anymore. It was about surviving long enough to see justice done. I returned to work the following Monday, trying to maintain a semblance of normality despite sleeping in a hotel under an assumed name. My firm, Hamilton & Reed Wealth Management, no relation to me despite the name, had been understanding about my emergency leave, but I could tell something was off the moment I walked in. Colleagues avoided eye contact. Conversations stopped when I entered the room. My assistant, Tracy, usually chatty and warm, handed me a stack of messages with unusual formality. "The partners would like to see you at 10, she said, not meeting my gaze. Among my messages was a notice from the SEC about an ongoing investigation into irregular activities associated with my advisor code. My stomach dropped. At precisely 10, I entered the firm's main conference room. All 3 senior partners were present, along with someone from legal and our compliance officer. Morgan William Hamilton, the firm's founder, and, again, no relation, began gravely. "We've received some concerning information." He slid a folder across the table. Inside were transaction requests, account access logs, and client complaints, all supposedly initiated by me for accounts I managed. "I didn't do any of this," I said immediately. "My identity has been stolen. I've been working with police on this very issue." "So you've mentioned," said Patricia Reed, the managing partner. "However, these access attempts came from your devices, using your credentials, and in some cases, what appears to be your signature. My home was broken into, my computer was stolen. I've filed police reports." Conveniently, after the first red flags were raised, noted James Chen, the third partner. "No, before. Check the dates on the police reports. This is all connected to my sister stealing securities from my home safe. I've been telling you about this situation for weeks." The 3 partners exchanged glances. "Morgan," William said, his tone softening slightly, "we've also received calls from several clients saying a woman claiming to be you has contacted them about moving their assets to a special opportunity fund with guaranteed returns. That would be my sister. She's attempting to defraud my clients now." "The callers used information only you would have about the client's portfolios," Patricia pointed out, "because she stole my files. She broke into my house multiple times before the actual theft." The compliance officer, Martin Brooks, cleared his throat. "Miss Hamilton, given the seriousness of these allegations and the ongoing SEC inquiry, we have no choice but to temporarily suspend your client access and trading privileges pending investigation." The words hit like physical blows. My entire career was built on trust and reputation. A suspension, even temporary, would be devastating. "You're making a mistake," I said quietly. "I'm the victim here." "We hope that proves to be the case," William responded. "But we have a fiduciary duty to our clients and the firm. Your access cards and passwords will be suspended as of noon today. You're being placed on administrative leave with pay while this is sorted out." I left the meeting in a daze. Back at my office, I found Taylor waiting, concern written across her face. Taylor Weber had been my best friend since college and was now a partner at a prestigious law firm specializing in securities law. "I came as soon as I got your message," she said, closing my office door. "What's happening?" I told her everything: the theft, my family's betrayal, the Miami disaster, and now the professional suspension. "This is a coordinated attack," Taylor said when I finished. "They're not just stealing your money, they're trying to destroy your credibility so no one will believe you when you accuse them." "It's working," I admitted. "The police are moving slowly, my family has disowned me, and now my firm thinks I'm either incompetent or criminal." "Not for long," Taylor said with determination. "You've been documenting everything, right?" I nodded, pulling out my phone to show her my encrypted files containing all the evidence I'd gathered. "Good. Now we fight back. I'm representing you officially from this moment forward." Taylor's presence was the first ray of hope in weeks. She immediately drafted letters to the SEC and to my firm, outlining the identity theft situation and providing documentation of the police reports that predated any suspicious financial activity. Back at my hotel that evening, I received an unexpected call from Diana. "I've found something," she said without preamble. "One of Ryan's known associates was arrested in Chicago last week on unrelated charges. He's looking to deal, and he claims to have information about the Boston job, which I'm betting is yours." "What kind of information?" "Enough to interest the FBI. They're interviewing him tomorrow. But there's something else. He mentioned your cousin Rachel specifically." Rachel? But she was just a lookout. She didn't know the full plan. According to this guy, she was more involved than she let on. Something about documentation she provided. Does she have access to any of your personal records? I thought back. Rachel works in human resources at Boston General. They would have my social security number, birth certificate copy, and other identity documents from when I had surgery there 2 years ago. That would explain how they've been able to forge such convincing documentation, Diana said grimly. Your sister had the financial knowledge from your conversations, and Rachel could have provided the identity verification documents they needed. The betrayal cut deep. Rachel hadn't just been an unwitting accomplice. She'd actively facilitated identity theft using her professional position. The next day brought another shock. 3 of my largest clients called the firm to terminate our relationship, citing inconsistencies in communications and concerns about investment recommendations they'd received. When Taylor investigated, we discovered someone had been emailing these clients using an address nearly identical to my professional one, the difference being a single, easily missed character. The emails contained legitimate-looking documentation with subtle alterations to account numbers and wire transfer instructions. They're trying to drain client accounts, I realized, in horror. They're using my reputation to commit massive fraud. Which means we need to move fast, Taylor said. If they succeed with even one client, the damage to your reputation will be irreparable. We worked through the night, contacting every client in my portfolio with warnings about the fraudulent communications. Most were understanding, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Several requested reviews of all recent transactions, creating a massive workload for the firm's already suspicious compliance department. The silver lining came from an unexpected source. Cousin Jamie called with news that our grandmother's attorney, Mr. Kaufman, had reached out to her looking for me. He says there's something important about your inheritance that he needs to discuss, Jamie said. Something about registration restrictions on the securities. I met Mr. Kaufman at his office that afternoon. At 82, he was semi-retired but still sharp as ever. I should have contacted you sooner, he began apologetically. But I was in Europe when all this happened. Your grandmother placed specific restrictions on those securities that I believe will help your case. He pulled out the original trust documents. These securities were placed in a special trust with transfer restrictions. Any attempt to liquidate or transfer them requires verification through my office and specific documentation that only I can provide. But they've already begun liquidating some of them, I said, confused. They've attempted to, he corrected. But without the proper verification codes, those transactions will fail final settlement. They may have received preliminary approval based on forged documents, but the actual transfers won't complete. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of real hope. So the securities are still technically mine? Legally, yes. But more importantly, any attempt to circumvent these restrictions constitutes clear evidence of fraud, which strengthens your criminal case considerably. I immediately connected Mr. Kaufman with Detective Bennett and the FBI agents now assigned to my case. The documentation he provided was the missing piece they needed to elevate the investigation. That evening, Taylor called with mixed news. The SEC is putting a hold on their investigation of you after reviewing our documentation. They're now focusing on the identity theft angle instead. That's good, right? It's a start. But your firm is still proceeding with their internal investigation. And 3 more clients have requested transfers to different advisors. The damage to your client relationships may be permanent. It was a sobering reminder that even if I recovered every dollar stolen, my reputation, the true foundation of my career, had been severely damaged. Rebuilding trust would take far longer than recovering money. The next morning, I received an unexpected message from an unknown number. Not everyone on Ryan's team agrees with what they're doing to you. Check the attached file. The file contained internal emails between Ryan and several accomplices, discussing the Hamilton job in explicit detail. The emails confirmed Rachel's role in providing identity documents and revealed something even more shocking. My parents had received a $50,000 gift from Audrey the day after she fled Boston. The whistleblower, whoever they were, had just provided the smoking gun we needed. I forwarded everything to Bennett, Taylor, and Diana. This changes everything, Diana said when she called. With this evidence, we can not only pursue Ryan and Audrey, but potentially charge your parents as accessories after the fact. The thought brought no joy, only a deep, aching sadness. My family had chosen money over me, betrayal over loyalty. Whatever the outcome of this case, those relationships were irreparably damaged. But professionally, things were looking up. The FBI formally announced an investigation into Ryan Blackwell for securities fraud, identity theft, and interstate transportation of stolen securities. My firm, seeing the federal involvement, began softening their stance. "We still need to complete our internal investigation," William told me during a tense meeting, "but in light of the FBI's findings, we're preparing for your eventual reinstatement." It wasn't full exoneration, but it was progress. As Taylor reminded me, one step at a time. We're building back your life piece by piece. With professional hope on the horizon and legal momentum building, I felt ready to launch a counteroffensive against those who had tried to destroy me. No more reacting, it was time to set some traps of my own. With Taylor and Diana at my side, I moved from defense to offense. We established a secure base of operations in Taylor's law office, where we could coordinate without fear of surveillance or intrusion. "We need a comprehensive strategy," Taylor said, her legal pad filled with notes. "Criminal, civil, professional, and personal. We attack on all fronts simultaneously." Diana nodded. "And we need to set traps that will force them to make mistakes." Jamie joined our team, providing critical intelligence about family movements. "Your parents booked flights to Miami for next week," she reported. "They're telling everyone it's a vacation, but they're only staying 3 days and they're meeting with a financial advisor while there. They're moving money," I concluded. "Probably their share of my stolen securities." Our first tactical move was information control. We identified every account, document, and system that Audrey and Ryan might target next, then created a honeypot, a seemingly vulnerable cache of financial information that actually contained traceable markers. "If they access this data," Diana explained, "it will leave digital fingerprints we can track directly back to them." Simultaneously, Taylor prepared civil lawsuits against everyone involved: Audrey, Ryan, Rachel, and potentially my parents. "We'll hold the filings until the criminal case advances, but having them ready gives us leverage for potential settlements." The most difficult task was addressing the family dimension. Jamie arranged a private meeting with my parents, ostensibly to discuss a resolution. I insisted on a public location, a quiet corner of the Boston Public Library where Diana could monitor from a distance. My parents arrived looking defensive and uncomfortable. My mother couldn't meet my eyes. "Morgan," my father began formally, "we agreed to this meeting hoping you've reconsidered your position." "My position on having $500,000 stolen from me?" I asked calmly. "Your sister made a mistake." "Stop," I interrupted. "Before we go any further, you should know that I have documentation of the $50,000 payment you received from Audrey after she fled Boston." Their faces went pale. "That was a gift," my mother stammered. "A completely unrelated gift. A gift funded by stolen securities," I corrected, "which makes you accessories after the fact. That carries potential jail time." My father's face hardened. "Are you threatening us?" "I'm stating facts. The FBI is investigating this case now. They'll follow the money, and they'll find that transfer. How will you explain accepting $50,000 from your unemployed daughter immediately after she fled the state with stolen securities?" "We didn't know where the money came from," my mother said quickly. "Audrey said it was from Ryan's business." "A business funded with stolen money is still criminal," I pointed out. "But I'm not here to debate law. I'm here to give you one chance to minimize the damage." I laid out their options. Cooperate fully with the investigation. Return any money received from Audrey and Ryan, and tell the complete truth about what they knew and when, or face potential criminal charges themselves. "You would send your own parents to jail?" my father asked incredulously. "You were willing to see your daughter's career and reputation destroyed," I countered. "Which is worse?" My mother started crying. "We never thought it would go this far. Audrey just said she needed help starting over, that you had always been the successful one and could afford to help her, even if you refused to do it willingly. And that justified theft and fraud?" "No," my father admitted quietly. But by the time we realized how serious it was, we were already involved. The money had been deposited. We'd made calls to family members asking them not to speak with you. Tell me everything, I demanded. What exactly did Audrey and Ryan tell you? Over the next hour, the truth emerged. Audrey had approached them months before the theft, painting me as obsessively controlling of my excess wealth while she struggled. She'd framed the plan as merely borrowing securities I wouldn't miss to use as collateral for a legitimate business loan. My father, to his minimal credit, had expressed concerns about legality, but Audrey assured them it was a gray area since we were family, and she intended to return everything once the business succeeded. My mother, eager to see Audrey finally succeed at something, had enthusiastically supported the plan. When did you realize it wasn't what she claimed? I asked. My mother looked down. When she called from Miami asking how to sell bearer bonds, and you still didn't warn me or contact authorities? We thought we could handle it internally, my father insisted. Family matters should stay private. This stopped being a family matter the moment she stole $500,000 and fled the state, I said coldly. By the end of our meeting, they had agreed to cooperate, though I doubted their sincerity. As insurance, Taylor had prepared affidavits for them to sign, detailing everything they'd just admitted. Sign these, or I walk away and let the FBI follow wherever the evidence leads, I said. They signed. As they were leaving, my mother turned back. Morgan, despite everything, we do love you. I couldn't bring myself to respond. With my parents neutralized, we turned our attention to Rachel. Diana had gathered evidence of her accessing my medical records at Boston General, a HIPAA violation that could end her career and potentially result in criminal charges. Rather than confront her directly, we had a hospital administrator contact her for a routine audit of accessed records. Panicked, Rachel called me immediately. Morgan, I swear I can explain, she blurted before I could even speak. I'm listening. Ryan threatened me. After I helped Audrey that first time and then started asking questions, he showed me pictures of my apartment building, my parents' house. He said he knew people who could make me disappear if I didn't help them. So you helped them steal my identity instead? I was scared. And I didn't think they'd actually steal money. Audrey swore it was just to set up accounts for a business venture you had verbally approved but wouldn't sign papers for because of some regulatory issue. Do you still believe that? A pause. No. Not after they disappeared and everything that's happened since. I offered her the same deal I'd given my parents. Full cooperation in exchange for potential leniency. Unlike them, Rachel immediately agreed and provided a complete written statement detailing her role and everything she knew about their operation. With family flanks secured, we moved to the financial front. Using Mr. Kaufman's verification process, we identified every institution where attempts had been made to liquidate or transfer the securities. Taylor sent legal notices asserting my ownership and the fraudulent nature of any transactions, effectively freezing the assets in place. The anonymous whistleblower contacted me again. Ryan's getting desperate. The Miami operation is falling apart. They've burned through the cash from the first securities and can't access the rest. He's talking about leaving the country. We passed this information to the FBI, who increased surveillance on their Miami condo. The final piece of our counterattack was the most audacious. Using information from our whistleblower about which securities they still controlled, we created a fake offshore opportunity specifically designed to appeal to Ryan's known preferences for laundering stolen assets. Diana used her contacts to ensure this opportunity was presented to Ryan through channels he would trust. The bait was too tempting, a way to quickly convert the increasingly toxic securities into untraceable cryptocurrency with minimal questions asked. He'll bite, Diana predicted. Guys like Ryan can't help themselves when they see an easy score. She was right. Within 48 hours, Ryan made contact with our shell operation and began the process of transferring the remaining securities. What he didn't know was that every step of this transaction was monitored by federal agents. Every document he submitted, every forged signature, every false statement, all meticulously recorded as evidence. The trap was set. All we needed was for Ryan to arrive at the Miami exchange point with the securities and attempt to complete the transaction. 2 days before the scheduled exchange, I received an unexpected call from Audrey. Morgan, she sounded frantic, nothing like the confident woman in Miami. I think I've made a terrible mistake. You think? No, you don't understand. Ryan isn't who I thought he was. I found things on his computer. Plans. He never intended to start a business with me. He's been using me to get to your money and your clients. I've been telling you that for months. I know, and I didn't listen, and I'm sorry. But Morgan, he's dangerous. When I confronted him, her voice broke. He threatened me. Said I knew too much now and was a liability. Despite everything, hearing my sister genuinely frightened stirred something protective in me. Where are you now? I asked. In a hotel. I took some cash and left while he was meeting with someone. I don't think he knows I'm gone yet. Audrey, listen carefully. Ryan is being watched by federal agents. If you want to minimize the damage, you need to turn yourself in and cooperate fully. I can't go to prison, Morgan. You've committed multiple felonies. There will be consequences. But cooperation could mean the difference between years in prison and a lighter sentence. She was quiet for a long moment. What should I do? I gave her the name and number of an FBI agent Diana had connected me with. Call this number. Tell them everything. And Audrey, return whatever securities you still have access to. I will. And Morgan, I'm truly sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. But I am. It didn't fix anything. But it was the first genuine thing my sister had said to me in months. The next morning, the FBI confirmed that Audrey had turned herself in and was cooperating. With her help, they refined the trap for Ryan, who remained unaware of her defection. 24 hours later, Ryan arrived at the exchange point with documents for the remaining securities. As federal agents closed in, he attempted to flee but was quickly apprehended. In his possession were forged transfer documents, my stolen identification, and documentation for accounts in 5 different countries. The man who had helped destroy my family and nearly ruined my career was finally in custody. As news of the arrests broke, my firm called an emergency meeting. The partners, now facing potential liability for their handling of the situation, were suddenly eager to clear my name completely. We'll issue a formal statement acknowledging the identity theft and affirming our complete confidence in your integrity, William promised. And the clients who left? I asked. Patricia looked uncomfortable. We're reaching out to them personally to explain the situation. It was professional vindication, but the damage to my reputation would take time to fully repair. Some clients would return. Others were likely gone forever. Trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild. That evening, our team gathered in Taylor's office to assess where things stood. The securities were being recovered, though some had been irretrievably liquidated. Ryan and Audrey were in custody, with my parents and Rachel cooperating with authorities under carefully negotiated agreements. We've won, Diana declared, raising a glass of champagne. It felt like victory, but a hollow one. I'd recovered most of my assets and saved my career, but my family was shattered beyond repair. The people I should have been able to trust most had betrayed me completely. Not yet, I said. There's still one more thing I need to do. 3 months after Ryan's arrest, I sat in a federal courthouse, preparing to testify in the case against him. The government had built a strong case, with charges including securities fraud, identity theft, interstate transportation of stolen securities, and conspiracy. Audrey, who had agreed to testify against Ryan in exchange for reduced charges, sat across the hallway, looking nothing like either the sister I grew up with or the glamorous Miami conspirator. Her eyes were hollow, her posture defeated. Our gazes met briefly. She attempted a small, conciliatory smile that I couldn't return. The wounds were still too fresh, the betrayal too profound. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Evidence mounted of Ryan's extensive criminal history and how he'd systematically manipulated Audrey to gain access to my securities and identity. Financial experts testified about the elaborate scheme to liquidate the stolen securities and move the proceeds offshore. When it was my turn to testify, I spoke clearly and factually about discovering the theft, the subsequent events, and the devastating personal and professional consequences. Ryan stared at me throughout, his expression a mixture of contempt and calculation. During cross-examination, Ryan's attorney tried to paint the situation as a family misunderstanding that had spiraled out of control. "Isn't it true that your sister believed she had permission to use these securities?" he asked. "No. She knew exactly what she was doing when she broke into my safe. But your family has a history of financial sharing and support, correct?" "I've helped Audrey financially many times," I acknowledged. "Voluntarily and openly. That's completely different from theft." In the end, the jury found Ryan guilty on all counts. The judge, citing his prior convictions and the calculated nature of the crimes, sentenced him to 12 years in federal prison. Audrey received a significantly lighter sentence, 3 years, with possibility of parole after 18 months, in recognition of her cooperation. As she was led from the courtroom after sentencing, she looked back at me one last time. I saw regret there, perhaps even genuine remorse, but also the same weakness of character that had made her susceptible to Ryan's manipulation in the first place. My parents, who had ultimately cooperated fully with prosecutors, avoided criminal charges but were required to return the $50,000 and perform community service. The family rift, however, seemed permanent. We spoke only through lawyers now, the trust between us irreparably broken. Rachel's cooperation and the fact that she'd been threatened by Ryan earned her a deferred prosecution agreement. She lost her hospital position but avoided prison time. We would never be close again, but I didn't wish her ill. Professionally, I slowly rebuilt. My firm, eager to avoid any hint of liability, had issued a strong public statement supporting me and acknowledging the identity theft. Most clients eventually returned, though a few remained permanently lost. The SEC closed their investigation, fully clearing my name. My anonymous whistleblower turned out to be Ryan's former assistant, who had become uncomfortable with the increasingly dangerous direction of his schemes. She reached out after the trial, and I thanked her for her courage in coming forward. Financially, I recovered approximately 80% of the stolen securities. The remainder had been liquidated and spent on Ryan and Audrey's lavish Miami lifestyle, the luxury condo, designer clothes, expensive restaurants. The court ordered restitution, but I held little hope of ever seeing those funds. 1 year after the theft, I stood in my newly purchased home in a different Boston suburb, surrounded by new security features and carefully rebuilt financial safeguards. My grandmother's remaining securities were now held in a specially designed trust with multiple verification layers that Mr. Kaufman had helped establish. Taylor organized a small gathering to mark the anniversary, not a celebration exactly, but an acknowledgement of survival and resilience. Diana was there, along with Jamie and a few colleagues who had stood by me throughout the ordeal. "A toast," Taylor said, raising her glass, to Morgan, who refused to be a victim and fought back against overwhelming odds. The others echoed the sentiment, but I felt strangely detached from their praise. Yes, I had fought and won, but at tremendous cost. My family was gone. My sense of security and trust had been fundamentally altered. The Morgan who had innocently allowed her sister to house-sit no longer existed. After the guests left, I sat alone on my new porch, watching the sunset and reflecting on the journey. The financial recovery, though incomplete, was substantial. My career was back on track, possibly stronger for having weathered such a challenge. I had discovered who my true friends were, Taylor, Diana, Jamie, and formed bonds of trust deeper than I'd known before. But the most profound change was internal. I had been forced to confront harsh realities about family, loyalty, and human nature. People I should have been able to trust implicitly had betrayed me for financial gain. That knowledge had permanently altered how I viewed relationships and trust. I had also discovered my own strength and resilience. When everything collapsed around me, I hadn't crumbled. I had fought methodically and strategically, refusing to be destroyed by others' betrayal. In the aftermath of trauma, I found myself more cautious but also more appreciative of genuine connections. I valued honesty and integrity more deeply, having seen the devastating consequences of their absence. The experience had also given me a new purpose. Working with Taylor, I established a foundation to educate people about financial fraud and identity theft, particularly when perpetrated by family members, a surprisingly common and underreported crime. We developed resources for victims and advocated for stronger legal protections. As darkness fell, I made a decision. I would visit Audrey in prison. Not for reconciliation, that seemed impossible, but for closure. To look her in the eye one final time and then move forward without the weight of unresolved questions. My grandmother had trusted me with her securities because she believed in my strength and judgment. I had honored that trust by fighting to protect her legacy, even when my own family had not. That knowledge gave me a measure of peace. The securities that remained were still valuable, still growing steadily as she had intended. But I now understood that their true worth wasn't in their monetary value, but in what they represented: careful planning, responsible stewardship, and the courage to protect what matters. As I ended that day of reflection, I thought about the people who had stood by me through this nightmare: Taylor with her unwavering loyalty, Diana with her relentless determination, Jamie who risked family rejection to do what was right, Mr. Kaufman whose foresight had saved much of my inheritance, and even Detective Bennett who eventually became a true advocate. These were the relationships worth cherishing, the connections that defined true family beyond blood ties. In losing what I thought was family, I had found a different kind, built on a stronger foundation of mutual respect and genuine care. The theft had taken much from me, but it had also given me a hard-won wisdom about what truly matters and who truly deserves trust. That lesson, painful as it was, might ultimately prove more valuable than anything that had been in that safe. Thank you for listening to my story. Has anyone in your family ever betrayed your trust? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this story helpful or thought-provoking, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more real-life experiences and lessons. Remember, sometimes the people we need to be most cautious with are the ones we thought we could trust completely. Take care of yourselves and your assets, and I'll see you in the next video.